I'm Becca,
And I'm Ceci. Welcome to What If You Knew, the Red Flag series.
where we teach you how to avoid getting stuck in toxic relationships and tell you what you need to know to be the kind of person who attracts the kind of person you want to be with.
In Red Flags 2, we discuss manipulation and the different tactics people use. Today, we're going to help you understand why people manipulate.
Okay, quick review of what manipulation is. It's doing or saying things with the intention of leading someone else to think or feel or act in a way that they wouldn't have if the manipulation wasn't present.
A common ingredient of toxic relationships is manipulation.
Now, most people freak out when the word manipulation starts getting thrown around because the stigma is that people who manipulate do it consciously and intentionally. It has a bad connotation.
While it's true that there are some devious people out there, most of us have good intentions. When we try to control things, we believe we're trying to help the other person. And because we care, we feel it's our responsibility to do something to make the situation better. We genuinely feel we're doing the right thing and for a good reason.
So let's look at some of those reasons. When desires aren't met or fears are present, we may manipulate or allow ourselves to be manipulated.
When we want something we don't have, it's natural to try to get it. Sometimes we do that by trying to control or change someone else. The thing we desire could be acceptance or approval, or even just a feeling that we're important, like we matter.
Ceci, those things all sound like they have to do with the way other people think or feel about us.
Right, and they can be very powerful motivators. But our desires could be other things too, like power or money or material possessions.
When we're afraid that something we don't want might happen, it's natural to do whatever we can to prevent it. We might try and do that by controlling or changing someone else. Maybe we're afraid of looking bad to other people.
Or maybe we're afraid that our relationship is going to end and we'll lose someone we really care about.
Right. It can even be that we don't care much for the person we're currently with, but we're afraid of being alone.
Bottom line is, no one likes to feel uncomfortable or bad. So when we don't like the way we're feeling, we try to change it. And there are a plethora of ways to go about that.
A plethora. I love that word. Yes, so many ways to do it. But if we don't know how, and we believe that the reason we aren't feeling good is because someone else is making us feel bad, then a common default method to feel good again is to try and change that person. Change what they're doing, change what they're saying, or even thinking about us so we can stop feeling bad.
So what usually happens in a relationship when things get uncomfortable for someone?
Well, if you are the one who's feeling uncomfortable, you might be thinking or feeling something like this. Why are they doing it that way? Why are they acting like that? Is there something wrong with them?
If you're feeling any of those things and you decide that the method you're going to use to feel better is to try to change the other person, that's manipulation.
And you'll probably use manipulation tactics subconsciously or consciously that you've picked up on in the past.
Right. Because remember, we aren't always aware that the things we're doing are manipulative. While growing up, we observed things that others said or did to get what they wanted.
Right. And if you've tried any of them and they worked, you'll most likely keep using them.
So what if it's the other person who's feeling uncomfortable with something in your relationship?
If it's the other person, it won't take long for you to pick up on it because we can sense when someone isn't happy with us, right?
Right. And it could feel like one of these things. I don't think they like the way I do things. Maybe they don't like the way I am. Is there something wrong with me?
At that point, if the other person decides to feel comfortable again by trying to change you, that would be manipulation.
And they'll probably use manipulation tactics, consciously or subconsciously, that they've learned.
And as long as it works, as long as you allow it, they'll keep using them. How we feel, our comfort level, has a lot to do with turf. Another word for turf is stewardship.
And we all have our own turf.
Defending our turf is something we all do naturally. It's instinctual.
So what is your turf and what is not your turf? It's actually quite simple.
Your turf is you, and only you.
It's your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and the right to make choices for yourself.
Think for a second about how you were raised. If the people you grew up around understood this definition of turf, then you've probably had or have some pretty healthy relationships in your life. If the people you grew up with didn't understand turf, then your turf lines now might be blurry.
And blurry turf lines cause frustration and misunderstandings in relationships. If you want to know how well you understand turf, ask yourself these questions. Is it my responsibility to make someone else happy? Is it someone else's responsibility to make me happy? Is being responsible for what anyone else thinks or feels or does my job?
If you answered no to all three of those questions, then you understand turf.
Understanding this concept of turf is essential if you want a relationship to be healthy and to be able to keep growing.
The reality is, most of us have been in a relationship or two that have had turf problems. So it's important to know what happens to us if we stay in a relationship like that.
When you stay in a relationship with turf problems, one of two things will happen. You'll either choose to resist because someone's stepping on your turf, which means there'll be a lot of friction in that relationship, or you choose not to resist and end up with depression because not defending turf causes depression.
It's important to know what the stages of depression are so you can recognize them in yourself or someone else you care about.
We'll go over those next time in Red Flags 4, Victims of the Toxic.
It's also important to know that you don't need anyone else to solve your problems because you can solve them. That's your turf.
If you're thinking right now that you're an exception, you're not alone. Lots of people think they need other people to solve their problems.
If you've made a bad decision in the past, maybe you missed one of these three things.
Did you know all of your options, or were you missing some information?
Did you know the pros and cons of each choice, the possible outcomes?
And did you plan for opposition? You know, the things that go wrong and how you could address them. If you do those three things, you can feel confident making decisions for yourself.
When you're making a choice, if you feel worried about how your partner will react or treat you, you are not totally free to choose. Strings are manipulations.
Let's be real. It's not a real choice if there are strings attached.
Strings warp your ability to make the best decision or to follow through with it once you've found it.
You need to be able to choose with no strings attached, emotional or physical.
Even with no strings, there will be times your choices won't work out the way you hoped. Making mistakes is like fertilizer.
It stinks, but it does help us grow.
Yes, it does. You and your partner need to know that it's okay to make mistakes.
Failure is just another way to say growing. Mistakes are necessary. They're proof that we're trying and learning.
Since we're always growing, both people in a relationship will have stuff to work on. It's important to let each person do their own work.
Because if we try to fix or solve our partner's problems, we're either controlling or enabling. Never steal your partner's opportunity to grow.
Being there and supporting someone is different than enabling. There's a right time and a right way to help.
Make sure your helping isn't enabling. Enabling is when someone tries to solve another person's problems or rescue them from the consequences of their mistakes. And enabling doesn't help, it hurts.
Now, you might be thinking, hold on, when we love someone, we're supposed to help them, right? Well, how do you do it without enabling? Let's look at some healthy ways to help someone without enabling them.
Be a resource. Because people are capable of solving their own problems and they need time to figure things out. Then let them ask you for resources when they're ready, or get permission first before sharing your ideas.
Sometimes people's burdens are extra heavy. At those times, it's okay to lighten their load.
And show kindness. Kindness should be given without the expectation of getting anything in return.
When you understand turf, you have confidence to solve your own problems, and you're free to learn by making decisions without strings, then you are emotionally independent. Emotional independence allows for progression in a relationship. And in a healthy one, both partners will continue to progress, both individually and together.
When it comes to relationships, you can know what to look for and you can know what you're looking at. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.